Okay, this is for Algebra 2. This is a lesson on monomials. A monomial has one term. There is no plus, there is no minus. It could be a fraction. It is just one term, though. We have several laws for the exponents when you're dealing with monomials. The first one is if you have a negative exponent, you need to move it to the other part of the fraction, and it will become positive. An example is that you have x to the negative 1. Make it a fraction, so you put it over 1. If you move it to the other part, you're moving it down to the bottom, and it becomes x to the positive 1. Now, when you move it down to the bottom and it becomes x to the positive 1, you can't leave the top empty, so you have to put a 1 up there. X to the negative 3, put it over 1, so now we're going to have to move it down, and it becomes 1 over x to the third. 1 over x to the negative 2, this one has to move up. And so it goes to the top and becomes x squared. It's okay to have the bottom of your fraction empty so you don't have to put it over 1. Okay? You should always write answers to all of your problems with positive exponents. So when you've done all your work, if you have an answer with a negative exponent, move some stuff around. Just a couple more examples that you can add to the paper if you want to. If you had x squared y to the negative 3 over z. The only one that's an issue is this y to the negative 3, so it moves. And that would become x squared over y to the positive 3z. You only move what has the negative exponent. The rest of it stays where it is. And it's not a flip, it's a move. The next law of exponents is that when you're multiplying variables with exponents, you will add the exponents. So if you have a to the x times a to the y, that becomes a to the x plus y. If you have x squared times x to the fourth, you're going to say 2 plus 4, so you get x to the sixth. If you have 3 to the third times 3 squared, you're going to say 3 plus 2, so that's 3 to the fifth. So when you're multiplying variables with exponents, you add the exponents. If you had a number in front of it, if you had 2x squared times 3x to the fourth, you actually multiply the coefficient. The number in front gets multiplied. You would do 2 times 3 and get 6. Then you would add the exponents, 2 plus 4, and you get x to the sixth. When dividing variables with exponents, you're going to subtract the exponents and put the exponent where the larger or bigger exponent was in the original problem. So a to the x over a to the y becomes a to the x minus y. A squared over a, 2 is bigger than, this is a 1, when there's not 1 it's a 1. So your a is going to go in the top, 2 minus 1 is 1, so it's just a. X to the third over x to the fifth, if you will look, 5 is bigger than 3, so your x has to go in the bottom. Then you're going to subtract 5 minus 3, and that's where you get x squared. Can't leave the top of a fraction empty, so you put a 1 up there. If you had something like 2x to the fourth y over 8x to the third y to the fifth. Okay? First thing you want to do is deal with your coefficients. Just like normal, it's a fraction. Reduce it. 2 over 8 reduces to 1/4. Then you look at your x. 4 is bigger than 3, so my x goes in the top. 4 minus 3 is 1, so it's just x to the first. Then you look at your y's. This is like y to the first. 1 is smaller than 5, so my y goes in the bottom. 5 minus 1 is 4, and that would be your answer. When raising a power to a power, you're going to multiply the exponents. So a to the x raised to the y becomes a to the xy. A to the third raised to the fourth becomes a to the 12th. A to the negative 2 raised to the fourth becomes a to the negative 8. But I told you we don't like negative exponents, so we've got to move it, and it becomes 1 over a to the 8th. If you have two things inside your parentheses, each thing gets raised. So this becomes a to the m, b to the m. This becomes x to the 6th, y to the negative 9, but we can't have a negative exponent, so x to the 6th over y to the 9th. There's a short video that we watched in class. You might be interested in looking at it. I'll put a link to it on the web page. Here are some practice problems. When you're multiplying, the coefficient, the big number, you actually multiply. So it's like you're saying -5 times -9, and that's going to give you 45. Then you're going to take your exponents and you're going to add them. So for a, what you're going to be doing is adding 5 plus 3, so you get a to the 8th. For the x, what you're going to be doing is adding 1 plus 7, because when there's not a number there, it's like a 1. So you get x to the 8th. So your answer here is 45, a to the 8th, x to the 8th. We have a fraction. The first thing you want to do is reduce the coefficient. We have a negative 15 over a 3. That reduces and gives you a negative 5 on top. Then you look at your variables and you put it where the largest exponent was. We have c squared on top, c on bottom. 2 is bigger, so the c goes on top. 2 minus 1 is what we're doing for c, and so that's just 1. We have d on top, d to the 4th on the bottom. The 4 is bigger, so my d goes in the bottom, and you're going to say 4 minus 1, and you get d to the 3rd. This is your answer. When you raise a power to a power, you multiply the exponents, so this becomes m to the 10th. When you're raising a power to a power, the coefficient, -3, actually has to be raised to the third power, so you would like rooftop it. -3, in parentheses, rooftop 3, and that would give you a negative 27. Then for your a, you're going to multiply your exponent, so you're going to say 3 times 3, and that gives you a to the 9th. For your b, you're going to say 5 times 3, and that gives you b to the 15th. When you have a fraction and the whole thing is being raised, every single thing in those parentheses gets raised. So you're going to have a 2 rooftop 3. Okay, so on top, 2 rooftop 3 is 8. For m, it's going to go on top because that's where it was, and it's going to be 2 times 3, so m to the 6th. N is going to go on the bottom because that's where it was, and you're going to do 4 times 3, which is 12. That's your solution. Notice we have 2 over x to the negative 4, I believe it looks like. Go ahead and deal with raising the power to the power first. So this becomes 2 to the negative 4 over x to the negative 4. Now we know we don't like to have a negative exponent, so the 2 to the negative 4 goes to the bottom, 2 to the positive 4, and the x to the negative 4 goes to the top, x to the 4th. Now in this situation, x to the 4th is good, but 2 to the 4th, you can actually get a number for that. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. So here's your solution. This takes you to the assignment for monomials. That other video that I'm going to put a link on the webpage to is excellent. I encourage you to watch it. If you have questions, come see me during speed.